The flaming demon dragon had horrible ice picks sticking out of its body, and slowly closed its eyes and gradually lost consciousness. After plundering the gift magic, Acemans actually tried to destroy the duo in front of him. He slowly raised the fire of heaven to burn in his aging hand. The infinite heavenly fire then quickly attacked them, the huge flames exuberant as if they were waves. I didn't realize that Yule Man was unharmed, and even looked a little pleased with himself. He stretched out his hand and casually shook his longsword. Countless sword shadows swept towards the flames. Yuleman even had time to strike a handsome pose, swinging his longsword with one hand at the old man. Only a strong sword shadow was seen as it struck towards the flames in front of it. A bombardment actually erupted from the center of the flames, while easily splitting the blazing flames in two. The heavenly flame gradually lost consciousness and suddenly gradually showed signs of extinction. Yurman stood still with a grim expression on his face, seeming to have no feeling for the battle just now. This guy is so strong. Is he really Kagome Charlotte's disciple? How dare you bring out Sylph's power? Who the hell are you? Yawerman didn't bother to answer back. There's a prize for guessing. Old man. He unleashed the energy in his body, and the rubble under his feet actually had a tendency to rise. In an instant he surged forwards, seeming to tear apart the cheeky old man in front of him, his body filled with bloodthirsty killing intent. Acemans was already a little angry at being called an old man, and it was clear that the young man in front of him was completely unaware of his own fate. So he unleashed his gift magic and a magical compass actually appeared. But will the gravel gradually rising from the ground be able to withstand the powerful energy of the old man's compass? After Yurman switched his skills with a serious expression, the rubble gradually turned into sharp weapons, only to see him swing his longsword in a smooth manner. Countless sword shadows attacked the old man. As expected, the old man was simply unbeatable, and the sword shadow instantly surrounded him and then directly exploded, until after he slowly lowered his longsword, the debris flying about in the air fell in response. But Yurman didn't stop. He didn't expect him to instantly unleash his skills to slash at the old man again. The old man faced the flying debris and hastily raised his hands to activate the energy shield. He was able to resist Yurman's stone attack, and even showed an evil smile. Yutan's face was grim, forgetting to tell you who asked and didn't guess. But there's a punishment for that. He said that and he came at me. The moment their energies collided, Acemans, however, felt the young man's powerful oppression. At that moment, the place where they were suddenly exploded, and the scene was actually unprecedentedly shocking. The upper part of the cave was even shattered by the energy, and debris continued to fall downwards. But there was no way to stop them. Just let them hit anywhere in the cave. Lord Void weakly covered his arm. I'm afraid the volcano will erupt if this goes on. It's the fault of this idiot, who has now offended the monsters Yao and Acemans. I'm afraid they won't even let him go, so I'd better sneak out while I can. Yui warns the old man in displeasure to give back Kagome's natural magic. Acemans suddenly laughed out loud. After all, the talent taken through pillage simply could not be given back. That's when he picked up the magic bottle. You didn't think that would knock me out, did you? Then you're too naive, I said, and then I crushed the bottle. Is that the legendary hellfire of the apostles? What does that old bastard Acemans want? But there was no time for them to be surprised, as the magma underground gradually spread upwards. You think you can knock me down like this? After all, I'm the headmaster of the Magic Academy. But without waiting for the other party's reply, he had already begun to rapidly absorb the prison fire in his hand, only to see his suddenly filled with power. A small prison fire strangely burned to form the hunting skill. Acemans says it's the most powerful apostolic force ever gathered, and he quickly opened his arms. Let's try it with you guys today. So the hellfire gradually attacked them, and the wounded human's body was actually burning with a fizzling sound. At this moment, a green figure suddenly appeared in front of you, quickly moving forward to resist the hellfire attack, only to see her use the gale barrier to easily block the old man's stolen energy for her master. I didn't realize that her energy was even greater than the old man's, and the stolen hellfire was obviously weakened somewhat. But you gave her an order to take the injured Kagome out of here. But Sylph refused outright. After all, it is my mission to keep my master safe. She was still gritting her teeth when her head was gently stroked by her master's. Don't worry, Sylph, I'm not afraid of a little hellfire. She was momentarily a little stunned, looking up at her tall and powerful master. Suddenly she came to her senses, and with unquestioning trust in her master stated that she would take her at once. The old man didn't realize that there were people who let their weapons run away with the injured and weak in times of crisis. Now that I have the hellfire in my hand, it'll only take a few minutes to kill you. Apparently, when the old man unleashed his prison fire skill, He even felt that he had simply made a move many times over. After all, his energy is so powerful that there is no one who can fight him. After 500 years of living on this earth, I finally freed myself from the shackles of mankind and set out on the path to becoming an apostle. Kriao is safe and sound in the prison fire. That's not how you use this fire. A larger fire flared in his hand, and he mockingly showed the old man opposite him, only to see him suddenly converge on the old man's prison fire, causing the other to stand still like a fool. You handsomely played with the hellfire in his hand. After all, he wasn't an incredibly fragile human being himself. You have control over the hellfire, but it is too small compared to the power of the apostle. I easily took the hellfire inside me. After all, I'm just a minion myself. More than that, I'd like to know what you're going to pay for what you did to my fiancée. But the old man thought that from the moment he took the gift, he was a dead man in his eyes. Since Yao has the ability to control the hellfire, then we can succeed by seizing his power. So he instantly opened his eyes and used the looting skill. You looked ahead in confusion. What's with this strange feeling? I didn't expect the old man to be quite crazy, to want to draw on the infinite prison flame in the other party's body. But before he had time to be complacent, his eyes suddenly changed in shock. As he drew on the energy of the hellfire, he actually saw the shadow of Yu's previous claim to dominance. Yu smiled helplessly. He even sealed himself for a long time so as not to reveal it. Aceman's entire body was swept with hellfire energy, but there was actually a hint of brokenness in his demeanor. Since you want my power so badly, I'll be a good guy and give it to you. So Yu suddenly smiled evilly. After all, his first seal was about to be unlocked. Sure enough, after he unsealed the seal, his body instantly boiled with hot blood and unlimited energy gushed out. The old man looked at him in surprise, not expecting him to be so deep in his hide. But you didn't even wait for his thoughts. The fearful prison fire quickly impacted towards the old man. After Aceman's received a powerful blow, the prison fire inside his body gradually drew out. He looked at his empty energy and his mouth fell open uncontrollably, only to see his body rapidly expanding. But the most unexpected Yao was actually, obviously you didn't want him to say it, his own secrets needed to be kept by the dead. After all, he's just a minion who came to find his wife and mix a few gold coins on the way. Aceman's had long since fallen to the ground, his swollen body actually smashing a large hole in the ground. At that moment, there was also a rumbling from above, as lava mixed with debris fell downwards. After you settled everything, he stood forlornly thinking about something. He suddenly looked up to indicate that it was time to go and round with Sylph, wondering if his wife had woken up yet. But there's a few things I need to take care of before I go to the rounds. You looked at the huge dragon in the deep pit in front of him, with a horrifyingly huge ice pick stuck in its body. He walked forward slowly and stood in front of it with his eyes downcast in thought. Suddenly he stretched out his palm and conjured up a strange boundary, slowly heading towards the dragon. The dragon felt something and slowly opened its eyes, but when it tried to stand up, it fell to the ground. It growled in displeasure, but it was too weak. After all, the dragon hadn't unleashed its full power in the previous battle. I'm afraid that if the force is too strong, it'll hurt the child. The dragon was also shocked that a small human could guess his thoughts. Rolling into the void realm, I found this child inside a fireball. I put it in my space ring, so it's still in good shape. The dragon arched the child slightly and looked at the human in front of him with some emotion. You, however, suddenly laughed, indicating that he understood the giant dragon's meaning. I don't know why you brought the baby here, but it carries the apostle scent with it. It's destined to be with us apostles. Don't worry, dragon, I'll take good care of it. I didn't expect the dragon to close its eyes permanently after hearing his promise. At that moment the volcano began to rumble, as if it was about to spread outside. Sylph, holding the injured Charlotte, looked expectantly into the cave. Sure enough, her master came out, and she was instantly overjoyed. However, she was a little afraid that her master would be hurt and looked at him nervously. You walked up to them and said he was fine. How was Master Kagome? Sylph shook her head. Kagome should have been too tired to fall into a coma and rest. Apparently the volcano was about to erupt and they need to get out of here before they make any plans. It's just that Master has such a strong character. I don't know if she'll be able to accept all this when she wakes up. Kagome is alone inside the hospital as a child, but she hears the nurse across the room gossiping about herself. It's anyone's guess at this point, but it's just pathetic to be left with only such a small child. So you already know who killed your loved ones, right? Kagome looked up at the visitor, who indicated that he shared a common goal. If she wants revenge, then be his apprentice. Kagome doesn't know him at all. The old man hurriedly introduced himself. His name was Aesmons. He was the Imperial Royal Chief Wizard. At that time I really believed in Master. He really wanted to help me get revenge. I didn't realize it was all just plunder, to take away my gift of magic. Aesmons was still praising her at the time. The magic was well learnt. It wasn't worth nurturing her for many years. She's sorry for her parents, and now she can't fulfill the Charlotte family's revenge. After she thought about this clearly, she suddenly opened her eyes slowly but felt so cold. Sylph was the first to realize she was awake, but she was overwhelmed with shock. Master, it's bad. Master Kagome can't sense any magic in her body. You was surprised too. It's all because of that damn old man. And the energy in Kagome's body was actually draining away rapidly. They felt a small-town hotel where the men had left their clothes lying around. It's true that you're using the energy of boundary magic so that it doesn't affect your performance, but just like Sylph said, Kagome couldn't sense any magical energy in her body at all. She's weak and losing energy fast. At this rate, Kagome may never wake up again. Sylph walked in quietly. Master, you should still have magic in you. Master Kagome replenished it for you earlier. This magic can be returned to the master to help her regather her magical power. However, since Master Kagome no longer had any magic power, she couldn't use the engraving for magic transfer. In that case, we can only use the most traditional method of mending magic, the lip-touch mending method, as recorded in the ancient books of mankind, connecting each other physically through the mouth, using mingled saliva as a magical medium. You hurriedly stopped her from reciting further, but for the sake of Master Kagome's return to her magical power. But what about taking advantage of her? Sylph, however, thought that Master Kerr would be more concerned about getting her magic back. It's been a while since her magic was taken away, and it won't help at all if we don't hurry. Even if her life wasn't in danger, would she be able to accept waking up as a normal human being? So you stepped forward with a firm gaze, indicating that he had understood her meaning. Sylph stooped and retreated, intending to guard the door for her master. She then quickly carried out her orders, clanging the door and sealing it shut. You hurriedly picked up Master Kagome. There wasn't much time left after all. No matter what happens after that, I'll be responsible to the end. So he shyly lifted Kagome's chin and moved to kiss it gently. In an instant, the energy in the room flew around randomly, but all of it converged into Kagome's body. Kagome's consciousness gradually began to return even after his kisses had delivered the magic. She slowly opened her eyes, but was confused, thinking that she must be in a dream. Although it was said to be warm, Yu was no longer there, and he had indeed failed as a master. Suddenly her eyes widened and she rushed to the slightest hint of something wrong. No, this was not a dream. Sylph stood in dismay at the door. Why was there a strange riot going on inside? She opened the door nervously, only to see her master sitting on his knees with his head hammered into the ground. I only saw Kagome's face reddening, although it is outwardly declared that you are my fiancé. But you can't do this to me. She was still chattering away when she realized that Sylph was quietly scribbling down notes. With a serious look on her face, she stated that she was recording the after effects of her master's kisses. Kagome's face instantly exploded in red, not realizing that a kiss had to be recorded. This isn't kissing. This is first aid. This is mending. Don't record this. And yow! What happened just now is in the past. You'd better forget about it. You looked at the lively master and had to agree with the aggrieved. It wasn't until later that she came back to her senses and slowly put down her teacup. So what happened to Aesmons and Wendell? And how did you escape after that? You, on the other hand, stated that it was Sylph's fault for escaping from the vortex. I saw Aesmons and the wizard fighting, but the cliff broke while they were fighting. It seems that the wizard should be Hastan. I didn't realize he was quite capable, but it's a good thing I watched the time before and snuck away with Master Kagome. You and Sylph. Kagome hung her head in disappointment. This was a real mess. You suddenly got a little excited. How's your magic and stamina recovered? Kagome quietly gripped the covers, but her expression grew more and more serious. Even with the magic returned by her stupid apprentice, her magic cultivation was now very low. You was puzzled and looked back at Master, who was really getting more and more beautiful the more he looked at him. But I didn't think she would, and told him to hurry up and take Sylph out of the way. At this point in the hotel, There's a heated conversation going on, only to see Kagom's face grow more and more somber, insisting that he take Sylph away with him. Kagome and the others stood still, puzzled, asking why exactly, because once the other families, they, knew about the deaths of Selmans and Wendell, then the power of the Empire and the three great families for nearly 100 years will be broken. I'm afraid there's going to be a change of heart within the Empire, and now she's not even a mid-level mage, so following her will definitely be dangerous. But you said he understood, but he rejected her offer outright. She was instantly and immensely angry. Did you hear me or not? Losing the protection of Acemans. There's no way the Paulettes will leave us alone, not to mention all the other families watching. But if he and Sylph leave, what will you do then, Master Kagome? She suddenly hung her head, not knowing how she was going to explain it to her disciple. After all, he's a cripple who can't fight, so say we hear you, but even more so, we won't leave your side, since we can't sneak away together. Let's face it together. Besides, I'm your legacy apprentice and fiancé. How can I leave you alone and run away? Kagome suddenly stormed out, having said not to take her fiancé's business seriously. Sylph cheered her on at this point, saying that she would help them too. Kagome was touched for a moment. Would you guys really go this far for me? But if anything happens to you, I won't care about any of you. You suddenly took out the Kirin's egg, which the Kirin entrusted to me on his deathbed. Kagome, however, looked at it suspiciously. Isn't this thing a treasure jade? In fact, Wendell was wrong. The Cheelan's guardian is not the jade at all, but its egg. So Sylph came forward and suggested that the master should give it a name. You thinks it makes sense. We can't keep calling it a unicorn egg, but calling it the apostle's egg is too blunt, since it's from the Orient. I've heard there's a traditional custom there. A child's name has to be commonplace to make it easy to raise. So let's call it Iron Egg. The griffin's egg is suddenly angry, its body burning with fire. Yao panicked and brought it to me. How could the Iron Egg suddenly burst into flames? It's too hot. Instead, they agreed that it should dislike the name, so Yao changed his name to Erjuzi. I didn't expect it to get angrier, and the fire became bigger and bigger. At this time around the town, late at night, it was incredibly eerie. The man was walking down the street, but he couldn't stop his legs from trembling constantly. They probably didn't expect the Void Lord to be dead, and he could barely move through space. I'm glad I was quick, or I'd have ended up like Acemans. But the news of Wendell's death will fetch a good price. So time passed quickly, and a week later in the hotel, it seems Hastings did escape from the volcano and spread the word about Wendell's death. Strange that he should have said nothing about Acemans, and about them. I don't think he knows that the treasure jade is Scion though. But still, no one should see it. You said he wanted to see the big city and buy some magic recovery potions on the way. So he traveled to the town alone and kept looking around at the beautiful women, only to see him cover his mouth in contentment and snicker. But his look grew more and more shy. You walked pleasantly towards the town center, looking around at the laughing and beautiful girls. It's true that where there are pretty girls, even the air is sweet. That's when he noticed the red door ahead and suddenly saw a man leaving clutching a bag. He then realized that he had almost forgotten to look for recovery materials for his master. Obviously, he couldn't go any further than a random walk. Better check out this shop first. So he pushed the door open decisively, and the bell above him actually clattered. The pretty girl at the front desk looked happily at the guest. Welcome to Riddler's Mercantile. I don't know if the gentleman wants to buy armor with high durability or magic stones with magic bonuses, but Yao has nothing else to ask for but some oriental herbs. But he warned the clerk that this one might be a little hard to find. Apparently the receptionist doesn't need to worry about him. They have the best selection of goods at Riddler's. You happily covered his mouth. After buying them all at once, he could save time to look at more young ladies. So he handed the receptionist a note. Here's the list of materials he wanted to buy. The receptionist looked at the list, and her expression actually became more and more helpless. Thousands of years of ginseng, ambergris, tianshan snow lotus and other medicinal herbs made her break out into countless cold sweats. Even in the East, these materials are hard to find. These materials are so rare, we don't even have them in our shop. You didn't realize that the weeds outside the Apostles' Temple, which were a big catch, were a scarce commodity in the human world. As he kept thinking about it, the ring on his hand was actually spotted by the front desk lady. It's actually a space ring embedded with top-quality magic stones. So the receptionist rushed forward to stop him and told him to wait before leaving. She remembered that there was still the auction, which would presumably buy what Mr. wanted. There's a black market sale once a year. Everything's on offer. I have one last ticket if you're interested. Sir, the Oriental continent is definitely out of reach for a while. Maybe the materials can really be bought there. So he pointed to the ticket and said he was going to buy it. The lady at the front desk couldn't be happier, but the tickets cost 100 golds. But Yao bought it instantly, and the auction will be held in the basement of the pub at 7 o'clock tonight. The receptionist bent over respectfully and waited until the guests had all left. Her face changed instantly, and she actually showed an imperative gaze. She threw away her apron and exhaled a cloudy breath. Take off your hair and relax your body. The man actually looked at her in fear and said that this month's protection fee had already been paid in full. Linda sneered out. What had she come for? To catch a big fish, of course. Around the town at this time, the time is gradually approaching evening. You looked around suspiciously. The Dragon Rider Tavern should be near here. At that moment the man in black was thought to rush forward and slammed hard into him. I didn't expect Yao to apologize first, saying he was very sorry for not paying attention. The man with the big axe shouts out in anger, "You ungrateful, lowly pariah!" You helplessly draws the corner of his mouth, bumping a little, and then this is not can't play with it. But the black-clad lord raised his hand to stop it. Don't strike at innocent people. The subordinate was so upset. Why couldn't Lord Man beat him up? He said it didn't look like it was intentional, so we better get going and not be late. You suddenly became lewd. This voice under the hood is definitely an iceberg beauty, so they explained it was a misunderstanding and told Yao to watch his step next time. You looked ahead strangely. What exactly was that line of people trying to do? Inside the Dragon Rider Tavern in the depths of the town, there was a strange meeting going on inside. Countless people were coming and going, all wanting to enter the basement of the tavern. At this moment, a man took a big gulp and put down his glass with satisfaction. The mixed juices here are too good. I'll have another one before the auction starts. But there were voices from the back of the room. The grand finale of the auction was said to be an artifact. After all, there are a lot of big names gathered here for that treasure. The man in white robes in the front is Wrecking King Hughes, who is half a step away from being an ace mage. But he's not the only one. All the big names from Thunder Snake are here. It seems that the items in this auction will be hotly contested by all parties. Suddenly, a man appeared and coughed to attract his attention. The pretty girl puts her arm around Yao's shoulder, pretending to be coincidental that they've met again. I can't miss the annual auction. She used her proud figure to rub up against Yu's arm, but she thinks it's too awkward to call her miss. Of course she should call herself Linda. He was embarrassed and rubbed his head, saying that his single name is Yao Yao. He was hooked so easily. Let him deliver the ring to his doorstep when the auction starts. So the pretty girl pretended to be enthusiastic. Why don't you let her be a temporary guide and take him into the auction? Isn't that Snake's precious daughter Linda? That man is probably another one of her girls. Apparently Yao doesn't care at all. He does love pretty ladies, but there are so many people at this auction. Aren't you afraid of being reported and investigated? The organizer of the auction is the head of the triads. Snake. Not only robbers and hoodlums buy from the black market. Before she could finish her introduction, a voice rang out from the auction stage. A man stood calmly on the stage, welcoming the guests. The people below cheered and asked the host to start the auction. Tonight will be the last night of the auction. I'm sure you've all been waiting for it for a long time. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started right away. The first item, the Devil's Hand, is still twisting and the reserve price is 50,000 gold. The Devil's Hand can summon demons or curse others. It's rare to see it here, so the crowd scrambled for it, and the price began to soar. There's a lot of good stuff in this auction. You can't miss it. You leaned back freely, saying that he's here anyway. That hairpin was dug up in a 1,000-year-old cave, but the man said it was bad luck. This ring is said to be a relic of the Hanging City, but the man said he was tired. Linda was a bit upset. This guy didn't buy anything, so he had to rob the ring. But there was one more item on display, and although it was ridiculously expensive, it might be a good idea. So it's finally time for the final part of the auction. Let us have the honor to introduce the last item to you. It's also the jewel of the auction. Everyone's eyes are wide open for fear of disturbing the treasure inside the box. It's actually the cold ice jade bracelet and its accompanying lotus. But the starting price is actually 2 million gold. The white-robed man instantly stood up and decisively raised the price by 1 million gold. So the people also bid. After all, that thing is very rare. But Yao Yao didn't make any move, and was actually guessed by the beautiful woman to be a poor man, only to see the man slowly stood up. The corner of his mouth actually hooked up a smile that was bound to get it. Linda was sitting beside him, waiting for the man to bid. As expected, the man lived up to his name. He looked deep into Linda's eyes, and surprisingly raised the price to 10 million gold. At this moment, the auction room suddenly became silent. Linda has long been shocked. The man in front of her eyes even bid such a shocking figure. The host was also stunned, and a cold sweat broke out all over his body. The man stood in his place, not expecting to pay 10 million gold in a single shot. The crowd stood up and wanted to see who was so generous. The host was still in a daze. He had never seen a man who threw away thousands of dollars before. You can only repeat to him, "You heard it right. It's 10 million gold. This kid doesn't look like a nobleman. If he can't get the money, he'll be killed." The host is scared and picks up the hammer and quickly strikes it, but at the last time, someone raised the price to 13 million gold. At this moment, the crowd only felt stunned. Their worldview collapsed. There is still a bidder. Linda was secretly pleased. Even if she couldn't get the space ring, these deals were enough to make a big profit. Yao clasped his hands on his chest and was a bit surprised. This is the guard from before. It seems that they came to the auction for the jade bracelet and the ice lotus, but it's a pity that I'm in a hurry. I can't take my time to bid. You raised the space ring in his hand. With 30 million gold, can we have a deal? The man looked at him with shock, and the voice of the bidder could no longer be heard. The crowd felt that he must be crazy. That is the top magic stone inlaid space ring. The moderator instantly gained strength, and hastily raised his hand to indicate 30 million once. At this time, my subordinate asked the back, "Lord man, do we still have to continue bidding? The other party is different from the others here. He must know the value of the jade bracelet and the ice lotus. He must know the value of the jade bracelet and the ice lotus, and he's able to offer this price in one go, so he must have some leeway." So Yao succeeded in getting the jade bracelet and the ice lotus, and will be able to go to the backstage for the formalities later on. Linda said the money came so fast. It's like riding on a tornado, but you directly flew forward, intending to go straight up to make the deal. Linda was shocked and stood up in a panic, reaching out her hand to stop the man in front of her, but he had already taken the money and ring to the top, and directly traded with the hosts. The man looked at Linda in confusion. "What did you just say that I didn't hear?" The most important rule of the auction is that any buyer who steps onto the stage without permission is in breach of the rules. The offending buyer will not only have to pay the full amount of the auction, and anyone in the auction can snatch the exhibits they bought. At this moment, the white-robed man got excited and rushed straight forward. Countless silhouettes responded, all intent on snatching the treasures that the man had just purchased. All of a sudden, the stage was ablaze with flames, and the floor exploded into the air. The white-robed man had already rushed forward. His eyes had already noticed the treasures inside the treasure box. Sure enough, it was Ralph Hughes. The damn guy was even one step ahead of them. The white-robed man stood still, proudly, and quickly stretched out his hand towards the front. Suddenly, his face was shocked, as if he had seen something horrible. "I did not expect to be the chariot Lund." The army people also came to the scene, but did not wait for him to react to the ground gradually spread frost. White-robed man stood in place, legs, actually by the frost, quickly frozen. He looked at the frost on the ground and said, "No good. Could it be the powerful Ice Duchess?" Only to see the man in black slowly take off his hat, intending to greet them one by one. As you guessed, it was really an unrivaled icy beauty. As one of the Empire's ace mages, the beauty was known as the Ice Duchess, the daughter of the general. The beauty had slowly walked to the treasure chest, reaching out to pick it up with her hand, intending to take it out and hide it away. At that moment her wrist was grabbed. "Although miss, you are very pretty, but it's not right to take other people's things. It's better to hurry up and hand it over to my hand." Only to see the ground on the stage breaking up. "If not careful, it will fall down." Manlina's eyes were stunned. She didn't think she could break free at all. Yu was very upset. "Miss, take away other people's things without saying hello. It's not right-o." But the beautiful lady just coldly drew back her hand without any words. He looked to the host and said he was in a hurry, so he took the things straight away. Manlina looked down at the treasure chest. The contents were suddenly empty, but that was the cold ice jade bracelet that she had waited so hard for to bring her magic to the next level. She used her magic with displeasure. After all, she wasn't going to let him go so easily, so she attacked directly, and a huge cloud of dust and smoke rose from the ground. As the ice gradually spread, her expression became more and more gloomy. The crowd watching from below was shocked. It was actually the eternal frozen prison. Linda gritted her teeth in anger. This is a big problem, but when the people ran to the door, they found that the exit had been blocked by Manlina. At this time, the ground was full of cold ice, and everyone was frozen in place by this fierce cold ice. For a while, the scene became silent, leaving behind only the gorgeous cold ice. Manlina looked at the man in triumph. It seems that you won't be able to leave in a while. You didn't care at all. He just asked lightly, is it really like that? So he went forward to borrow the sword. The man was shocked by a jolt. His sword hung in his hand. Diamondstein snorted in disdain. With this broken sword can resist any magic skill. So he quickly struck. His veins rippled. Actually wanted to break the man in front of him into pieces. His magic skill quickly came in front of the man, but the man stood still and didn't move at all, only to see you evil smile and swing up both arms. His body actually burst out unprecedentedly powerful energy after decisively swung a sword forward. If he withstood it, not dead or disabled. Obviously, he didn't want to avoid it. He had to face it directly, so the ice shattered, and with a violent impact, Diamondstein was already too weak and crashed into the wall, which resulted in a huge crater. Then he fell unconscious. A mixture of ice and debris scattered on the ground. Linda looked at him in shock. What the hell was this guy's origin? Obviously, Yao could not take care of her. He said he was in a hurry. Don't send them one by one. Let's all go together. The white-robed man in the crowd froze in place, looking incredibly shocked and horrified. However, Manlina launched her skills and reached out to gather the power of her whole body, only to see the air slowly gathered huge ice, and even countless ice cones emerged from it. With a wave of her hand, countless ice cones attacked the unrivaled man in front of her. Unexpectedly, Yao did not intend to dodge at all, and waited for the ice picks to come. Sure enough, at the top of his head, the ice pick stopped instantly. What happened? Manlina was going to give him another chance. She only wanted the jade bracelet, but the man did not care about this threat. After all, the bracelet and the ice lotus, he wanted both.